Peter's eyes are falling.
Here we are.
There we are.
Hopefully the 14th is now appropriate. This will come. Very special moment. And here he is.
There he is, Kurt.
Applause going up, greeting the waving,
Big
the
smiles. How amazing. Dr. Liz was also talking about the
Welcome, new Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka 145, the Map Maker, here to talk about some of the current events, including the new Pope. Who is he? What are his intentions? Good or bad? Pedo or non-pedo? We're going to get into all of that tonight, and the Augustinian order that he is a part of. The first pope from the Augustinian order, at least is not a Jesuit, but the Augustinian order is under the Jesuits. So we're also going to talk a little bit about Trump's big announcement and the news about Trump in Israel that's looking very positive. Trump at odds with Israel all of a sudden, no longer Israel's greatest ally, but having a little bit of friction with good old Netanyahu in Israel. And then get to the latest news from just today, Trump's arrival in Saudi Arabia and the great speech he gave there. And there's going to be 3 more days of that activity happening coming up here, so more to come from that. And then towards the end, we're going to get to what I'm calling the black news, which is Kanye's new song, or pardon me, Ye's new song, the Diddy trial, and more. So we got a lot to report on. I'm freshly back from that Charlie Ward Expo. Hope you guys like the little documentary I did there. I guess I should mention as a platform announcement that we had our first video banned from YouTube, which was interesting, a little bit unexpected for me since we have posted some pretty controversial stuff on there already, and none of it was banned yet. But YouTube could not handle, well, I'm going to post this video on YouTube too, so I'm going to mince my words here, but the 3-letter holistic remedy that the mainstream media likes to call drinking bleach, I guess YouTube had a big old problem with my mentioning that in the part 2 of the Charlie Ward Expo. So still looking at a little bit of medical censorship. Not allowed to mention, well, let's not even mention it because we don't want this video to get banned too. But I think you guys should all know the benefits of that 3-letter substance by now, where you mix the 2 droppers. We'll put a picture of it somewhere around here, get it from KV Labs, and all the benefits it has. So I guess YouTube does not want people knowing those benefits, but we re-uploaded the video with some bleeps and some censorship, and you see the image of it, what Andreas Kalker talks about. So we're just going to keep trying with YouTube to upload everything, trying to have free speech, and if they ban anything else, we'll definitely let you guys know and maybe upload a second version of it with the offensive terminology bleeped out. So, but that is a pain in the ass to have to do. We like to edit these videos once. So, but that is the little platform announcement. We have gotten, I guess it's considered like our first strike on YouTube. So if we say anything bad 2 more times, I think it's 3 strikes and you're out. Or maybe this was just the warning. But anyways, we're going to keep uploading to Rumble, YouTube, and BitChute all of our videos and just see what happens. Obviously, Rumble is the biggest channel and YouTube is kind of an experiment at this point, but I may put up another little video on YouTube reminding them of what happened to their former CEO in a kindly, slightly threatening way, who died by, I believe, turbo cancer was the cause of death for that one. Of course, a big promoter of the. So there you go. Well, let's get right into the news. The big announcement. And, you know, this is a little bit strange. I'll skip forward here a little bit, talking about Trump's big announcement. I thought it was very interesting that Trump said, I believe on Wednesday, that he would have a huge announcement by the end of the week. And then the very next day, we get the new Pope. And I think I have not heard anyone else really correlate those two things. Other people are saying other things were what the big announcement was, but there really wasn't any other big announcement at the very end of last week other than this new Pope, who happened to be American. So if we put these little pieces together here, you know, combining that we had an American Pope announcement the day after Trump said that we would have a big announcement, or he would have a big announcement, and this comes, you know, a week after he posted this image of himself as the Pope. To me, I interpret this as possible comms that, you know, Trump is, or white hats, let's just say, are in control of the Vatican, which I think is a very good possibility at this point, despite a lot of things looking like this Pope is somewhat of a dirtbag. But the announcement came last Thursday. That was, I believe, the 8th of May. The big announcement was U.S. Cardinal Robert Prevost took the name Pope Leo XIV. And he is the first pope, as I said, from the order of St. Augustine and the 7th Augustinian pope. So what even is the order of St. Augustine? You know, it's their Catholic Church has a lot of different orders, knighthoods. This one is abbreviated the OSA. It's a religious order from the Catholic Church founded in 1244, bringing together several groups in the Tuscany region who were following the rule of St. Augustine, written by Augustine of Hippo in the 5th century. And this order operates globally, running schools, parishes, and missions with a commitment to serving the poor and spreading the gospel. The order has, in particular, spread internationally the veneration of the Virgin Mary under the title of Our Lady of Good Counsel. So I found that a little bit interesting that, you know, this Pope is going to be preaching hard on Mother Mary. You can see that as a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Like from the dark side, you can see this is maybe kind of like more like Ishtar cult coming through. But on the light side, which I think it probably is more on the light side, to be promoting Mother Mary is maybe the rising of the divine feminine in the new Earth era. So in the new age of Aquarius. So some good signs here, some mixed signals. Looking a little bit more into the Augustinians, it has been noted that the Augustinians' role in the Protestant Reformation, particularly through Martin Luther, who was an Augustinian friar himself before his break with the Vatican, has led to minor speculations about internal conspiracies or reformist factions within the Augustinian order, but those lack concrete evidence. So could this Pope possibly try to do something radical like Martin Luther, like the Protestant Reformation, or maybe try to reverse the Protestant Reformation, maybe try to bring the Protestants back into the Vatican? Is a possibility. Maybe try to merge Islam and the Vatican, which would be a very New World Order move. I mean, ultimately, whether that's a bad thing or a good thing, I'm not sure. We don't want Sharia law, but if we could end some of the conflict and the jihad between, you know, tone down those Muslims a little bit, that might not be a bad thing. But what is the Augustinian order all based on? So I started looking up a little more research on who was Saint Augustine. Well, he was Augustine of Canterbury, who lived in the 500s, early 6th century, and most likely died around 604, was a Christian monk who became the first Archbishop of Canterbury in the, well, I'm not sure if it was United Kingdom back then, but what's United Kingdom now, in the year 597. He was considered the apostle to the English. Augustine was the prior of a monastery in Rome when Pope Gregory the Great chose him in 595 to lead a mission, usually known as a Gregorian mission, to Britain to Christianize King Ethelbert and his kingdom of Kent from Anglo-Saxon paganism. So, summary of all that is the new pope is from an order within the Catholic Church based on the teachings of the original saint who essentially brought Catholicism to England. Now, Catholicism in England has been a little bit of a contentious subject since they broke with Catholicism eventually and have their own Church of England. But, they tried very hard for many centuries, and many wars were fought over the Vatican trying to control England. And everything about the Vatican really just creeps me out. It's not so much about spreading the message of Jesus Christ, but more about going into countries and converting their pagan rituals, just like adjusting them just enough so that they align with like these Christian holidays, and like that's good enough for them. Some have said that the Catholic Church and the Jesuits is as far from the teachings of actual Jesus Christ as you can get, but I'm sure that's a little bit of a controversial statement. But on that note, shortly after this pope was, sworn in, inaugurated, took the oath, took the robe, came the stories about the child sex scandals. And this guy's from Chicago originally. Well, maybe from Chicago, mainly lived in Chicago, but has been on missions in South America for much of his life. But there was articles come out just within a day of him being put in place. Pope Leo XIV engulfed in child sex abuse scandals hours after being elected first American pontiff. And this from USA Today. Pope Leo XIV draws criticism, praise for record on clergy sexual abuse. This article is saying that as many celebrated Cardinal Robert Provost's historic selection as the Pope, the world's largest organization for clergy sexual abuse victims, is worried about the pontiff's past handling of sexual abuse cases and called him to take a tougher stance on the issue that has long plagued the Roman Catholic Church. And we all know what they do. I hope most of us know what they do. When a priest gets busted, they typically make a settlement with the family and move the priest to a different location. That seems to be the modus operandi of the Catholic Church. And a really great movie about that, if you want to see a little dramatization of it, was Spotlight with Michael Keaton. And I do want to mention here that Leo Zagami has been giving some very interesting interviews on Nino's Corner. And I believe there are 2 that are free currently, and one more that's behind the paywall on ninoscorner.tv. I've heard Leo Zagami before. I've always liked to hear him speak, but he's really going all out. I mean, when you hear him speak, it's almost like reading one of my charts, one of my most extreme charts about the Jesuit control and all these different secret societies. And he seems to very much confirm from personal experience. Let's see, I'm trying to find, I don't think I have the Jesuit hierarchy tree in my folder here, but some of this is actually shown on the World Hierarchy Pyramid. But he essentially talks about how, the Freemason lodges in Italy, including the P2 Lodge, are basically subservient to the Jesuits, which is essentially what I have heard. If you look at maybe I'll pop up another picture of my Jesuit hierarchy tree, which is a much more simplification version of similar idea to the world hierarchy pyramid. But you have basically Freemasonry at the bottom with the Illuminati and the Khazarian Mafia above them. So a lot of people do say Khazarian Mafia controls the Freemasons because a lot of the Freemasonry symbolism and rituals is based on Kabbalahs with a Jewish influence. But then above them are the knighthoods, and then above that is a Jesuit order. And so just been really loving everything that Leo has had to say. He did say with a lot of certainty that we would have either a black or an Asian pope a couple days before this pretty much white pope was sworn in. But of course, he was then trying to do a little bit of backtracking, saying, well, this white pope has Louisiana African roots. He may have like a black grandfather. But this, I guess this is an article that was saying, well, he may have even some connection to voodoo, actually. I mean, I consider, all these cardinals and the Pope, other than Archbishop Maria Villagano, to be like potential for like high level Satanists. And, would not be surprised if he gets into voodoo. Wouldn't definitely not surprised if he's a pedo. Most likely has enabled pedos, by covering things up or not fully prosecuting pedophilia and child abuse scandals that were brought to light in Peru and other South American countries. And even just the fact that he's from Chicago. So I want to go into a little bit of my take on this. Forgot to put up these logos when I was talking about the Order of Augustine, but this is the symbol of the Order of Augustine. And here is another version of it. So it predominantly features a heart with an arrow going through it on top of a book. And then all the foliage around that and the flame coming out the top of the heart. This one has a little bit of other accoutrements around here. Looks like the Pope's staff and hat. Not sure how exactly to interpret that. That's the Sacred Heart of Mary, perhaps. Or you can look at it as somewhat of like a Aztec human sacrifice symbol. I don't know. But so I want to talk just about my own take, which I kind of got a few downloads about this. And some of my downloads may sound a little bit extremist or radical. And I'm not even sure if I necessarily agree with them. But I was just kind of listening to, my guide's source, getting downloads and going on this kind of train of thought, even considering, what are these charitable, we'll say in quotes, orders actually doing. But my take is this Pope is most definitely a pedo enabler and most likely a pedo himself. I believe that he will be very much like the Biden of the Vatican. And why do I say that? Well, he's from Chicago, probably has some ties with Chicago Mafia, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama. These are all Chicago players. Chicago in general is known as extremely liberal city. This Pope has spent years slamming Trump on Twitter is what I've heard. I have not looked at his account exactly, but he's known to be an anti-Trump Pope. However, we are in this era of white hat production era. We just got through the whole Biden administration. And, the fact that we see this American from Chicago coming in, this has fingerprints of the white hats on it to me. And so I think this will be another situation where we have to show them, not necessarily tell them. For the millionth time, we have to show them. Like people don't know, haven't had enough evidence of, sexual abuse scandals in the Catholic Church. We just need to spotlight it one more time with an extra bright spotlight, just like the movie Spotlight, right? Maybe that's why it's called the movie Spotlight. I always thought that was a pretty strange title for the movie. I think that was the name of the newspaper or something in the movie. But we're going to spotlight this one more time in white hat production style. And why is it necessary? Well, if you look at the crowds gathered outside the Vatican, you see exactly why it's necessary, because there are still so many people brainwashed by the Catholic Church, still treating these cardinals and popes like celebrities. Where are the protesters? Where are the people holding up signs about pedophilia, about child sex abuse scandals of the Vatican, which are so well documented and well known? These people are not ready for the Great Awakening yet. There's way too many NPC supporters of the Vatican, and the Vatican controls massive legions of NPCs around the world. Why aren't people even wondering about the Swiss Guard? Who are these Swiss Guard Reichsläufer that defend the Pope? What is the connection between Switzerland and the Vatican? These are all things I've talked about for years now, specifically on my Octagon group map, which you can get as a print or a poster. This ties it all together between the Vatican, the secret societies, the Swiss banking cartels, and the Freemasons, and it all. So yeah, I'm just, I'm seeing way too much support for this and way too little protest, because at this point it should be pretty much well known that the Vatican is the largest pedophile ring in the world, that it is the head of the serpent, that it is the whore of Babylon, the red harlot on a horse, or whatever they say in Revelations, that the Pope's audience chamber is the shape of a serpent head for the reason because the Vatican is the head of the serpent, controlling all the major organized religions on the planet, I would say, including Judaism and Islam. Maybe not so much Hindu, but I'm sure they have Jesuit influencers over there as well. In every country, they have installed these Jesuit influencers, which the Jesuits are the CIA of the Vatican, the intelligence agency, as well as the assassins, whose favorite method of assassination is the poison cup. So these are all things that the mass population still needs to learn. And so I guess it is our duty as the truthers to push even harder to educate people. So many, even since my very first, major diagram in all of this, the Q web has always been very top center, the Vatican, right there, top center for a reason. Never waver from that reason. I have not. So still some, obviously we still have NPCs, but I think there's still a lot of education that needs to happen before anyone high level at the Vatican is actually perp walked. But I will reiterate that I think white hats have taken over this operation probably since 2020, when that Wuhan virus miraculously jumped from Wuhan to Milan. And there was rumors of special operations going into Vatican City in Rome. And of course, many rumors and some people even supposedly disclosing insider information about, these shipments of gold from the Vatican to the US. So all that is probably why Trump posted this image. So I was thinking even more and getting downloads on this about, the Vatican doing all this charity work, being charitable. I would say pretending to have all these charities in third world countries, trying to convert them. I'm not sure how much they really do to try to actually help their economies when, at the same time you have like the Swiss banks and the IMF basically like condemning these countries to eternal poverty and giving them the World Bank, making sure they have debt, trying to steal the resources. It's all an interlocking system that works together from the spiritual side to the economic side. And the Vatican just basically pays lip service, much like how the Freemasons and the Shriners have their children's hospitals and, claim to do these good things for society, while on the deeper level, on the true agenda, they're really subverting a lot of things. But, I start wondering, if you start believing in karma and like, why do we have these poor nations? Why do we have third world nations? And is this how God intended it to be? Is this, the result of evil coming into our world? Is it the responsibility of the Vatican and the Rome, the richest people in the world, to go into these poor countries and try to make them better? Well, my download was that, what if? I'll phrase this in terms of what if, but it's just something to think about. What if the people in poor countries, in third world countries, were actually condemned by God to suffer because they were evil or immoral in previous lives? Or perhaps they evolved upwards from subspecies like spiders, scorpions, or chimpanzees and are learning morality for the first time. The problem is that the Vatican does not teach reincarnation or karma, so Catholics can't make sense of this. They think they have to save the poor through Jesus Christ, but perhaps it would be a better strategy to simply expand the successful nations of Christendom and expand the Christian realm, destroying the nations plagued by evil. Again, that's a what if. That's a very imperialistic sentiment, but it's something to think about. You know, we're trying to end world poverty, but if we are on this scale, this Jacob's ladder, I like to think of it as, which is a major symbol both in Judaism, Christianity, and Freemasonry, perhaps there's a reason why there's poor nations. You know, perhaps these people are not quite meant yet to be living at the standards of first world nations. Now, I would love to see a world where there is no poverty, but it's like this is sort of the quandary, I would say, of, you know, all of these missions that the Vatican has been a part of for thousands of years. And I mean, how many nations have they really gone into, poor third world nations, to bring, you know, the Jesus Christ and spirituality and all this? Have they really helped these nations? You know, it would seem that really the only nations that are successful and first world nations are the ones that have basically swept out the old native practices and brought in, you know, the standard model of Christianity, whether that is Protestant or Catholicism. I mean, in the case of the United States of America, Protestantism, which rejected the Vatican itself. Why does Christianity need to spread to poor third world nations? Perhaps it is because the native religions are satanic at their core and worship reptilian, dragon, serpent gods, aka the red serpent Satan. The Vatican has failed to progress third world countries morally and financially over the course of millennia, hundreds and hundreds of years, because they are ultimately bringing in the IMF to steal the natural resources, and the Vatican is morally corrupt in the first place. It's the Swiss Mafia, Octagon Group. The Pope wears Octagon Group Templar insignia all over his robes, and the hat of Dagon, a tribute to the ancient Anunnaki religions of the Canaanite region. How many poor nations do the Jesuits and the Vatican have to go into? All they do is stay poor and get more brainwashed, because all of these religious orders are nothing but humanitarian hypocrites. So, all right, I went pretty hard on the Vatican and third world countries for just then, but that was my download. I'm not going to take responsibility for it. Just like brew on it, you know, think about it. What is the solution to poverty worldwide? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out for my Jasara humanitarian projects, but I would love to see the end of that. And it seems that, I mean, I think I would do a better job of ending poverty in third world nations than the Vatican has done, considering how much money they have and how little progress has been made over the course of centuries. So coming back to what was Trump's big announcement, again, I think the big announcement may have been the Pope itself. And, you know, between that statement, this tweet, and the election of the Pope, I think that was a white hat calm that, you know, this may be white hats in control, despite the Pope probably being a dirtbag. You know, this is an operation to show people the truth one more time. But I was looking into other theories or other ideas about what this big announcement was, since Trump did say it would come before the end of the week, before this trip to Saudi Arabia. I think it was before the end of the week specifically, so not even including Monday, but some of these bullet points about what the announcement was may include early this week. Grok was saying the big announcement, hyped up specifically around May 6th to 8th, was revealed on May 8th as a trade agreement with the United Kingdom. This announcement was described as a breakthrough trade deal aimed at boosting U.S. exports of beef, ethanol, and other goods, while easing U.S. tariffs on British steel, aluminum, and cars. So that's a possibility. The trade deal with the UK which, very good news, is we have seen a bit of a turnaround in the stock market since that British tariff or trade deal with the Brits. We have seen a pretty dramatic turnaround in the stock market and crypto as well, which continued into this week on Monday. And even articles saying it's looking like a recession will be less likely now because of this big turnaround that we've seen. Additionally, there was speculation about other potential announcements, such as the Medicare drug pricing plan involving the most favored nation policy linked to the U.S. drug prices to those abroad. This was announced May 12th. However, the UK trade deal was the primary focus of the hyped announcement. So that's what Grok was saying. I don't think that was like he said it would be like an earth-changing announcement. So I'm not even sure if we've seen anything that lived up to the level of hype. Previously, when he said he's going to make a big announcement, it has been the announcement of his own NFT collections. And so I think Trump sometimes uses the term big announcement loosely. But I like my own theory that it was the announcement of the white hat Pope. Pope wears a white hat too. I mean, think about it. Makes sense. But good news on the economic front. And then, of course, that's, well, let's see. Yeah, that's tapping on a little bit. I didn't have too much prepared about this drug executive order that Trump did on Monday, but that should be pretty significant if it's serious. I mean, it's almost hard to believe that he's going to be reducing drug costs by 50 to 90%, as he has said. This is just a little meme here that, liberals are always loving it when Democrats say they'll lower drug costs, but then, of course, saying, leave Big Pharma alone, when Trump says he's actually going to do it. So it is pretty absurd that certain drugs cost 10x the price in America that they cost in other countries, that we're paying for all the R&D, and I do believe it should be evened out. At some point, I think we should look at like how much profit does Big Pharma really need to make? How much is it ethical for them to make when we're talking about life-saving medications? And, do we in America need to look at, universal healthcare model like a lot of the other European countries have? Come to think of it, that's probably why they pay so much less, because it's their governments paying for these medications. Not every European country has a universal healthcare model, but I do believe some of the big ones do. So it's like the government's not going to pay these exorbitant fees, but the American people do have to pay the exorbitant fees. So that's what you call bullshit. And hopefully we can get off a lot of these medications as we clean up the FDA and the food supply and educate people on natural remedies, including the big 3-letter word that my video on YouTube got banned for. So we'll take a little break from the news here and got to put in a little promo for deepstatemappingproject.com. Could really use the support, you guys. I'm going to take you through a little walkthrough of the website just to show you around some new things that we've added. So the homepage here, we have added this beautiful rendition of the D-Web in the gold frame. This, I would say, would probably be the poster version, 24 by 36, which you crop down to 36 by 17. And I actually have an actual gold frame behind me, slightly less fancy, but we're going to do a photo shoot of that soon. And just want to remind you guys to please sign up for the newsletter to stay updated on all our video announcements, sales, expos, product launches, and more. Some of our newest artworks would be, of course, the D-Web, which you can get as the big poster you see there. Comes as a sticker, and it also comes as a mini poster. I love the D-Web. It is the simplification of the original Q-Web with similar information, but boiled down to the bare essentials so as to not overwhelm the average newcomer to the Great Awakening. A former NPC that has awakened. It's the perfect amount of information for those who are maybe just getting into this. And it's it's specifically made to be a little prettier to look at than the original QWeb. You know, it has more of like an artistic flair. So it's great information for a seasoned truther or for someone that's new to the information as well. So we'll take you here to the poster section, which is probably the main thing we sell here at D.S.M.P, posters and prints. And this is our second newest one, the Maestro Map, which is also related to the original QWeb and sort of an extension on the information. It pretty much picks up where the original QWeb, which was created at the very end of 2017, left off, with Trump's first administration going through the Biden administration and some of what we speculate will be happening in term 2 of this Maestro operation, the big white hat operation spanning 12 years. So that is the Maestro map. And I want to walk you guys quickly through some of the new crystals in the crystal section. Once you come to this section, it's usually good to sort it by the latest because it's default sorted by popularity. So these are some of our newest finds from Tucson, from all over the world. Fairy quartz from South Africa, Larimar from Dominican Republic. We have got a lot of reasonably priced polished quartz points, which quartz points are probably my favorite crystal to collect. I have enough of them for myself, but these are some very nice ones in a reasonable price range. Dark fairy quartz, very new, very exotic, mined in Pakistan, I believe. Yep. It's essentially lithium laser quartz, sparkles, all kinds of properties. We got these brachiated jasper obelisks that are very nice. And now we're getting into some of the even bigger quartz points. We actually have been, these lapis pyramids are selling through pretty rapidly. And so we only have 2 left of the lapis pyramids. This is a beautiful smoky quartz. And then getting into the bigger and bigger points. Now, I think some people have been a little bit shocked by the prices of these bigger ones, but you don't really get a sense of scale until you really go in here. Like, these are pretty much huge. Like, I am 6'1", this is my actual hand, and like, these are big suckers. So if you don't have big quartz points, you definitely need them. And then, of course, we have all the bracelets that are hand strong in-house, super high quality gemstone bead bracelets, updated with the light code charm to give you the downloads and the telepathic activations. So since those were the latest, the first page is the newest listings, and then we get into some of the older ones as well. All still good. Covalite, great for the big C. And these are extra big pieces. I'm surprised these haven't gone yet. I'm thinking about keeping some of these. I like them so much. Look how big. If you know anything about Covalite, like, these are huge. So definitely explore the whole crystal section. We even still have some stuff from last year, Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, but it's just as fresh as when it was pulled out of the ground. It's all millions of years old anyway. And of course, we have our light code shungite pieces, custom shungite, which is the best substance for EMF protection, as well as just simply decoration. So redirecting now to the packet section. Intel Packets is really our flagship product, that it's like the best thing you can get to get the most of our artwork all in one package. And as we continually update it, it now comes with the newest stickers that we offer, including the Eagle Light Code Nanos and the Mirror Sephiroth sticker. So this is like the best packet for beginners. And then we have all these other variations on packet, exploring different subjects from spirituality, the deity chart packet, to health, the ultimate health packet, ancient cults, the cult of Baal packet, and Pleiadian tech packet. So that's a quick little walkthrough on the site. We're still selling a lot of healing webs. But healing web's been the #1 seller of 2025 so far, which is kind of surprising since that artwork is all the way back from 2019. And we have the updated version, the Infinite Life Vortex, which is specifically intended to be an upgrade to the healing web. So if you're, if you're interested in the healing web and you've purchased that one in the past, I would highly suggest the Infinite Life Vortex, which expands on the whole spectrum of holistic remedies, gives you more information along with the same like index of causations and remedies for all the most common diseases out there, but it just really goes into a lot more depth on the holistic remedies, the future remedies as well. So Infinite Life Vortex, Healing Web, learn how to move away from big pharma, survive and thrive. So that pretty much concludes our little tour of the D.S.M.P catalog. Check it all out, deepstatemappingproject.com. Now, moving on to a little bit more news. I love this news about Trump and Israel. And the Jerusalem Post actually changed the title of this article since it was originally published to make it a little more ambiguous. Because I didn't know if I wanted to report this initially, because the initial article was a little bit speculative. It was like Trump may announce U.S. recognition of a Palestinian state. So don't get excited yet. Like, don't get too excited yet, guys. This hasn't happened yet. But the tensions seem to be quite high between Trump and Netanyahu. He's basically drawn the line in the sand. Like, Netanyahu is not playing ball, not trying to de-escalate this war, not trying to bring the peace that Trump wants. And there is rumors, as you see here, the Gulf diplomatic sources debate if Trump will announce the U.S. recognition of a Palestinian state. Saudi Arabia will host a U.S. summit mid-May during Trump's Mideast visit. Speculation swirls over a major announcement on a Palestinian state. So some people thought that was going to be the announcement he was talking about last Wednesday with the Canadian Prime Minister. So there's no word on it yet, but there is more and more articles coming out about this sort of growing rift between Israel and the United States, really initiated by Trump. There was an article linked on the homepage of Drudge Report from the Wall Street Journal titled, "Trump Surprised and Sidelined Israel Ahead of Landmark Middle East Trip." Side deals by the U.S. administration raise questions about how closely in sync the allies are over major challenges in the region. And it's just looking worse and worse for Benjamin Netanyahu. I was just seeing more videos on Twitter from like something to do with the UN, like the World Court, International Justice people, talking about how he's cut off humanitarian aid, how, this tactic should never be used in war against civilians in any capacity. That, there's still there's still videos of them bombing civilians. Again, I'm not sure if some of this may be simulation or real, but either way, it's looking worse and worse, more genocidal on Israel's behalf. And I think it's really good that Trump is distancing himself. And we already have people all over X claiming that all these certain spectrum of influencers who have said that Trump is beholden to the Khazarian Mafia, beholden to Israel, saying that now they have been proven wrong because he is now distancing himself from Netanyahu and Israel. Has not announced a recognition of the Palestinian state yet, but that may be on the heels of this Middle East trip. And very notable is that Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, has canceled his trip to Israel. And as I mentioned before, Trump is in the Middle East, but Israel is not on the itinerary. So essentially, Israel is getting snubbed big time in their moment of need. Well, I mean, they don't necessarily need to genocide all the Palestinians, but they certainly want to. There's all different images from Trump's meetings with Netanyahu. And this one in particular, the facial expressions are saying like Trump's not having it, and Netanyahu's looking a little bit desperate there. So it looks like the boomerang on Israel it's gone all the way out and it's just starting to stop and it's just starting to turn back around and come back to hit Israel right in the face. And so, just like you said from the very beginning, saving Israel for last. It is the nation controlled by the Khazarian Mafia, who are not even ethnically like origin Semites. They're all white Eastern Europeans that descend from Khazaria. So, not everyone in the country, of course, but the leadership is who I'm talking about. So, the trip to Saudi Arabia is going great so far. Trump gave a very powerful speech today in which he really was aggressively speaking about the former administrations, calling them like warmongering neocons, referring to them as nation builders who have no idea how to actually build nations and only destroy nations, saying the era of dropping bombs and destroying countries is over, and we're entering a new era of peace and prosperity, and giving the more successful Persian Gulf countries quite a few props for having, industrialized and built out these amazing cities like Riyadh and Dubai and all the ones in Qatar and, all those basically like rich Islamic nations in the Middle East, giving them mad props for building these beautiful cities. He's a builder himself and he can appreciate all the towers that they've built and the architecture and like the futurism there. I mean, their cities are way more advanced and new and polished and pretty than almost any city in the USA, I will say. I mean, the USA has a few nice buildings, but really, I'm not sure how much really compares to what they've done in the Middle East over the past 20 years and even 10 years. There's been a lot of development. So this is a big business economic meeting happening in Saudi Arabia right now. Probably a lot of things changing, a lot of deals being made. And Trump has brought with him 32 individuals from the White House, joined President Trump with lunch with the Saudi officials, and including many, many major business leaders, including Elon Musk, Larry Fink of BlackRock, so many, Sam Altman of OpenAI, ChatGPT, that is. I'm not sure if you guys will know these names of a lot of them, but CEO of Boeing, CEO of IBM, CEO of Citigroup, CEO of Amazon, NVIDIA, Palantir. Just goes down the list. Halliburton, Uber, General Atomics. So big meeting happening, big decisions being made, big business deals. I think they signed a deal of $600 billion investment of Saudi Arabia into the United States. So we're getting all of these investments of business into the country, which should definitely have an effect on the economy in the midterm. Not so much in the short term, but these are the foundations being laid for the golden age to be kicked off. And of course, he was given like a royal greeting from Mohammed bin Salman, who is one of the key partners in the International White Hat Alliance, as we've known from the very beginning of the Q operation. Given the royal welcome, the horse escorting the Cadillac, the red carpet at the airport, none of these type of expressions of friendship were given to Biden when he came. He was given a very minimal reception. So the alliance is strong. The business partners are flowing in. And it seems like, this White Hat Alliance is becoming all powerful. So all very good news there. And it should be a lot more news coming out as well over the next 3 or 4 days of this week. Today being May 13th. So, moving on to the black news. I found this very entertaining personally myself. Kanye West, who goes by simply Ye Now, released a song, Heil Hitler. Now, I gotta say, like, I've liked some of Kanye's more popular songs. I'm not a big fan of rap in general, but I thought this song was pretty catchy. it's kind of like rap in the beginning and then just more like chanting in the end. And the chanting part's the part that kind of gets stuck in your head. It's like, I don't even know if I can say it on here, but we all probably know the lyrics by now. I mean, I honestly think this song is fire. It's pushing the boundaries. It's catchy. I mean, what else is missing? It's been banned on all the streaming platforms, but of course they can't get rid of it. People are reposting it other than him. And I've saved it as an MP3. I may even use it as the intro to this video. We'll see. But this is really bringing up some major conversations about Hitler, about Jewish influence in the music industry. And it's just really raising a lot of questions. I'm not at the point where I'm about to be like, Hail Hitler myself. Like, I don't know the guy. All that happened 60 years or 40 years before I was born. So it's hard to really form an opinion on it. But people are starting to put these pieces together. And I saw this on Twitter, which, really makes you think that what are predominantly African Americans going to think when they find out who owned the slave ships, which was predominantly Jewish merchants and Jesuits, I believe. So, or Jesuits in the Jews, or Jews in the Jesuits. So it's all coming out. The public perception is shifting. I would say like the public perception of Hitler just in the past week has improved dramatically just based on this one song, which is insane to think. But people are really starting to question the mainstream history narrative that we've been taught, in the Holocaust Museum and that they tried to drill into our heads in school. And I'm not saying I've formed an opinion on it one way or the other. But I will say that I saw Mike King on Patriot Underground this week. And I actually learned from him for the first time. I'll have to confirm this, double check it, fact check him. But Mike King has done a lot of research. I'll just say that. And he was pulling up the original article from the New York Times where they first announced that the Holocaust had been discovered. And this article's only source was a commission put on by the Soviet Union that supposedly discovered that 400 or 4 million people had been killed in Auschwitz. And so had they done any of their own actual research, or are they just completely trusting a commission put on by the enemies of Germany? So that shocked me, to be honest. Like, I had never seen that article before. I had never even heard that before. You would think that they did a lot of research after that, but apparently, the numbers and the factoids published by this Soviet Union commission, which the Soviets had already been found essentially blaming their own mass murders on the Nazis and other situations, that this Soviet commission was taken as fact by the Jewish media in the USA. And, don't forget this, the same Khazarian Mafia that installed the Soviet regime, which was responsible for, mass amounts of killing. The same Khazarian Mafia controls the media in America at the same time. And so it's really, like, all the pieces are really falling together, and it's not looking good for the Khazarian Mafia. And it's looking better and better for the Germans and Hitler. And I also got to say, I had listened to the song like several times as just like the MP3 track. But when I actually watched the video of this, it actually gave me goosebumps. Like, I don't know, it was powerful. They're all wearing these strange, like, furs. It's just black men, like, basically screaming, wearing all these like tribal furs. And I don't know, something about it is very powerful. It definitely has some artistic value. It's not just shock and awe. And when you do the research on it, like Mike King has done, you start kind of understanding. Even if you read what Kanye has written on Twitter and listen to the actual lyrics and in the rap part of the song, you start understanding why he has these opinions about like this group of people. And like, I do think he is guilty of just saying like the Jews, making it a little too generic. We're talking about a certain cabal, a certain mafia of people at the top, is not the entire religion necessarily. But sometimes things get generalized, and that's his opinion, and I believe he should have the free speech, the right to say it. Now, beyond Kanye, a brief mention of Diddy trial. Honestly, I feel like the Diddy trial is not making a splash. I do believe it was the front page of Drudge at one point, but I'm not seeing a whole lot discussed about it. It's not exactly hitting. It's a little bit of, I'm not gonna say a nothing burger, but I think the actual mainstream media is sweeping it under the rug a bit. Now, of course, I'm sure everything happening in that trial is things that we in the Truther movement have already been aware of for a very long time, which is why I'm not too focused on it myself. But it does seem like the mainstream media is trying to downplay this as much as possible. And, hopefully the White Hats have a plan here. If it is supposed to have a bigger impact on the normies, we need to see some more coverage of it. But I'm waiting for a big bombshell to come out from that, and haven't really seen it yet. The last black news here is this bronze sculpture, 12-foot high bronze sculpture erected in Times Square, of course, by one of these modern black artists. And people are just really saying that this is kind of like lowering the bar on standards for what we immortalize in bronze and marble, of, showing this woman that's overweight in a t-shirt and spandex pants. For some reason, it does look like she's wearing lace-up shoes, which, I would expect like flip-flops or sneakers with the rest of the outfit. And people are also saying that it looks a lot like Letitia James, which it definitely does. I mean, usually you see Letitia James in a pantsuit that's struggling to stay buttoned and on, but this maybe looks like Letitia James on an off day. And so people are just like so over this liberal DEI, shoving it down our throats, lowering the bar, lowering the standards, agenda and attitude, this, the whole platform of the Democrat Party and the whole ideology in all the major cities in the USA. So just another sign of the times. But, seeing the reaction to it, I think, is really showing the other sign of the times, which is that the vast majority of people are no longer tolerating or, bowing down to this ideology of, put the white man last and put the minority on this pedestal, when, the white people are the ones that have built the majority of the first world civilization. So let's just keep that in mind. I could go off on a lot more of that, but I think we're going to leave it at there for now. So that is the news for this week. A lot of positive developments. I'm eager to see how the White Hats corral and control this new papacy into an exposure operation, which I'm almost certain that will be the whole point of Pope Leo XIV. I'm also very much looking forward to see what else comes out of this Middle East trip. I think we'll probably see some more very interesting developments. And best news of all is that the stock market is coming back up, crypto's coming back up, and looks like the recession may be canceled. But you never know. You never know. There could be, well, there's always going to be fear mongers, but if we were to have some kind of an unexpected geological event, unexpected cyber attack, what else does the deep state have up his sleeve that could derail Trump's plan for a golden age? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But the White Hats do have, I believe, the most advanced technology and the most advanced Star Brothers backing them. So hopefully the crash is over and the golden age will be stopped by nothing. But that is it for this video. Once again, check out deepstatemappingproject.com. We are still in the process of relaunching the website on a new domain, which will be coming in about a month or so. But the original website is still fully functional, and we could really use the support if you guys need your posters, packets, crystals, t-shirts, hats, neon signs. We've got it all. DeepStateMappingProject.com. And we'll see you guys on the next video. New Templars.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of finance.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
With the calm before the storm.
What storm is it?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Just now we saw a black triangular craft fly just right through those two mountains.
And how far we're willing to go to fight.